Okay, I've had the Razer Blade Pro, this thing right here in front of me right now. I've had the Razer Blade Pro for 10 days. 10 days. And I've made some notes as I've used it, just to let you guys know, sort of a review, sort of a what my experience has been. We'll start out with the good stuff. The good stuff, like the size. I was afraid, you know, a 17-inch laptop can be very big. Look at Alienware laptops of years gone by. 17 inches can be huge. And this is not a small laptop by any shape or form, but it is not completely overbearing. It doesn't feel like it doesn't belong on your lap. And that's not always been the case with 17-inch desktop replacement laptops. It's very thin for what it is. It weighs about 6 pounds. And while I haven't had any reason to leave the house and carry it around in a backpack or anything like that, the size and the weight are not really an issue for me at this point. I've been able to take it from, you know, this workstation to that workstation to my workstation upstairs, and all of that has been great. The one negative about that is that the cable, the power cable, the 240 watt power brick that has to go along with it, you have to bring this with you. You have to bring that power cable with you. You can't leave anywhere and just expect to have battery. The battery life is like a couple of hours. I haven't really tested it, but it's not good. Battery life is not good. That shouldn't be surprising. This is a very powerful machine that is doing very intense things most of the time. So I didn't expect incredible battery life. However, having to drag around this huge power supply is kind of a pain in the rear end. Another thing about the power cable, it has this braided cable for the on the end that plugs into the laptop, and already the braided cable is fraying. It's sort of like getting all fuzzy like a sweater and starting to come apart, and that is very frustrating for something that I paid as much as I paid for this, as well as the fact that when you plug this thing in, which you have to do quite often, when you plug this thing in, it's somehow difficult to get the thing lined up. You know, the cable is very thick, so it's hard to get it bent, and so you're always kind of going in at an angle. And I found that actually at this point, I'm having problems with a little bit of scratching around the edges of the port, which bothers me. Back to the good stuff, though. The screen is fantastic. I ended up getting the 1080p screen, 300 hertz refresh rate, all that kind of stuff. You're never going to see 300 hertz, but still, I was a little bit nervous that it would be not such a great screen, especially compared to the 4K 120 hertz screen that is available on this machine as well. However, I really wanted the 4K, but they are charging $600 for the upgrade to the 4K. I mean, you get the 4K plus you get a 1 terabyte hard drive instead of a 512 terabyte hard drive. 512 terabytes in a $3,200 machine is not all that great, but I do appreciate that there's an extra slot in there that you can slide in another SSD, and then you have as much storage as I guess you can afford. So I've stuck a 2 gigabyte SSD in there. So I've got 2 gigabytes, and then the system drive is 512. I've been really, really pleased with this screen. I was worried, as I said, that it would be kind of, 1080p kind of worried me. But the colors on this are great. Watching video on it is great. The text is crisp. I have had no issues with the screen whatsoever. I've been playing Call of Duty Warzone and some other games, and those things look fantastic on this screen. I've been getting 100 to 125 or so hertz refresh rate when playing Call of Duty Warzone while streaming on the same computer. So I call that pretty good. I don't have everything maxed out in Warzone, but then again, it's Warzone. You don't want to max everything out because the other people don't max everything out. So anyway, the 4K would have been really nice, but not for an additional $600. I got a little bit of sticker shock there. I'm already paying a lot for this. Nearly $4,000 for a 4K screen was just a bridge too far. The keyboard, I have enjoyed the keyboard. I've liked the keyboard quite a bit. And the thing is, A lot of people have complained that it's a little soft. It doesn't have very much tactility to it and that kind of thing. I have found it to be relatively good. It's not snappy like a mechanical keyboard. There are some chiclet keyboards that are a little bit more tactile. This keyboard, after I got used to it, it feels really good. I'm typing without looking. I don't know how to type, so just give me a break. I'm typing without looking. I'm feeling pretty good. They finally took the arrow key out from in between the shift and the question mark, so I can actually use a question mark. It's been good. It took maybe 3 or 4 days, 5 days to get used to, but now I'm typing freely. The keys on the keyboard don't have any sort of like convexness or concaveness or any kind of texture that allows you to sort of feel each individual key. So maybe they're a little slippery in that way, but I've seen this in other laptops. Trackpad, I don't like it. I don't like it because I've used MacBook trackpads for so long, and I've just gotten used to the way that they feel. I've gotten used to that force touchy thing that they do. And this one being a mechanical clicky, it just feels clunky to me. And it's more difficult to like right click and left click and do the stuff that you want to and drag things around. I'm sure I'll get used to it over time, but for the most part, I just use a mouse, and that's probably what I would do anyway. So the trackpad is nice, glass, feels good, looks good. I just don't use it. It just doesn't work very well for me. There have also been some times with the trackpad where I don't know if it's like my hand is brushing against it or something like that, but I'm repositioning the cursor when I'm typing. And so I'll have like half a sentence in some other paragraph, which is annoying, but I guess an adjustment thing. And so far, I haven't done it as much in the past few days, so maybe I'm getting used to it. Performance on this thing has been super impressive on a few different fronts. For one thing, usually when I've switched over to like a desktop replacement Windows laptop, it is still performed like a laptop. However, this guy actually outperforms my desktop with an i7 9700K, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and a 2080 in there. This thing has the 10th generation Intel i7 chip, 8 cores. I put 32 gigs of RAM in there, and it's got the 2080 Super Max Q. I don't know about these names, and it's been solid. And I want to say that while the top where all of the processor and the GPU and all that stuff up toward the top gets hot, the keyboard stays relatively cool. Even when, pushing the thing hard with games, the keyboard stays relatively cool. The deck where your hands rest does not get hot. This thing is less hot than my MacBook Pro. Okay, my MacBook Pro, like eventually just browsing the web, it feels like you could cook an egg on there. But this thing has been much, much better. The cooling is really impressive, and I've really enjoyed it. I can hold it on my lap and not be uncomfortable. So on that front, very, very good. The performance is exactly what I would hope that it would be. As I said, I put 32 gigs of RAM in here, as well as a 2 terabyte hard drive, and it was very easy to do. I've got a video coming up that's going to walk you step by step through how to do that. For those of you who feel a little bit uncomfortable, I'm going to give you everything that you need to do, everything that you need to buy, etc., etc. So if you're not subscribed and you want to see that video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you know when that comes out. Bell notify yourself so that you get a notification if the YouTube gods actually will shine their light on me. I also, the RGB thing, I don't care. It's nice to have, I guess. I've sort of left it the way it was stock, which is just this wavy thing, spectrum cycling, whatever. And it also is responding to any audio that's coming out of the thing. That's all good. But going into the Razer Synapse app and trying to change things, the Synapse app is just like a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, and I don't feel like spending the time to learn how to do it. I'll probably just end up going with a single color one of these days. But right now it's hooked up to the Chroma visualizer, and that's how it gets the sound thingies and all that. And I'm just leaving it that way for the moment. Speakers, two things about the speakers. One, I don't think anybody should really care that much about laptop speakers. Yes, it's nice to have good sounding laptop speakers, and these don't sound as good as other laptops, MacBook Pros especially. And you would be able to tell that if you had this $3,000 plus computer and another $3,000 plus MacBook beside it. But sitting here by itself on its own, the speakers sound fine. The speakers sound fine, and I have no real problem with them. They're maybe a little bit tinny, but not as bad as some other laptops out there by any stretch of the imagination. I look at speakers on a laptop as a convenience that's nice to have whenever you're moving around. But when I'm at a desk and I want to hear something and listen critically or something like that, I'm going to plug it into an audio interface and hear it through speakers. That's just how I'm going to work it. I don't care if this is high fidelity. It doesn't matter to me whatsoever. The one thing that I am concerned about, though, is something that I've heard other people talk about before. These speaker grills seem to already be picking up maybe a little bit of schmutz inside, and I just worry that schmutz will continue to collect, and then it'll just sort of look trashy all the time. Otherwise, my experience with this changing over to the Razer Blade Pro from using my MacBook Pro and my desktop Windows machine has been, there have been a few hiccups here and there. I can't use the Thunderbolt interface that I usually, the universal audio arrow that I usually use, because when I tried to record with it, it would sound fine when I was recording, but then I would listen back and it would be all choppy and weird. Thunderbolt on Windows, whether or not it's Universal Audio or Windows or Intel with their Thunderbolt 3 implementations, I don't know, but it just doesn't work all that great. I do have other interfaces, USB and otherwise, so I'm not going to be out of luck, but I do hope that Thunderbolt 3 becomes as stable on Windows machines as it is on Mac machines at this point. Other than those little hiccups, you know, some little things here and there with audio or whatever, it's running games extremely well. It's recording. I'm recording on Streamlabs OBS right now. It's doing that flawlessly. I've had no problems whatsoever. No crashes, no hiccups, no blah, blah, blah. The battery life is bad. But otherwise, it has been the most smooth of a transition from one way of working to another way of working that I've ever had. There will continue to be little hiccups as I get the whole thing worked out. But to this point, this is probably the best laptop I've ever had, other than a MacBook Pro. I love the design of this thing. I love the performance of this thing. It's just everything that I hoped it would be so far. I'll report back again, maybe after 30 days to let you know if it continues to be everything that I hoped it would be. But for all of you out there who thought I was going to go back to Mac right away, so far it hasn't happened. I've only used my MacBook Pro once because I had to get into a Logic Audio file. Otherwise, this thing has been my one and only computer. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions down below. Let me know if you have any comments, anything pithy to say. I will anxiously await your pithiness down in the comments below. If this is your first time here, thanks for stopping by. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back again. And I hope you continue to do so. Do the things that you need to do in order to make that happen. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.